Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I am Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Got a big show planned for you as usual. Looking forward to basically helping you kick off your weekend here as far as sports goes. We do have a big sporting event here in our state with Darlington taking place this weekend. And it's kind of interesting. Not very many people. It seems like we don't really have the buzz that we would normally have with Darlington. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that later on. We've also got, I've got some college football stuff we're going to get into in a moment and just all kinds of good stuff. We might talk about the UFC and the fights that they have this weekend. There are tons and tons of great things that we can get into, including, as I said, some college football. And I want to welcome in to the show today with me, of course, the gentleman that comes in here with me on Fridays, Mr. Savage College Football. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Rob. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back in with us today, man. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. It's going to be a good show.
I'm glad to be here. Let's get to it.
Yeah, man. We got all kind of stuff, man. We got to start with Nick Saban, who is hilarious with what he did yesterday. You know, there was Jimbo Fisher put out a comment that said, "Hey, you know what? I am." I think the term that he used was, he was going to kick Nick Saban's butt. Yeah. Lots of people have said, hey, I'm going to kick Nick Saban's butt, which is kind of funny. But Nick Saban was asked about it at a golf tournament this week. And he had a pretty good response. I mean, let's be honest. Texas A&M wants to be, I guess what LSU and Alabama are right now, which is, not LSU and Alabama, LSU and Auburn, which is trying to be right there to be on the heels of Nick Saban. But they asked Nick Saban about this, and his first comment was kind of interesting. He said this.
Coach, got to ask, your friend Jimbo said yesterday that at some point while you're in Tuscaloosa, he was going to beat your butt. That wasn't the word that he used, but did you have any response for that?
In golf?
I think he meant on the football field.
Coach Saban is, you can't question the man's timing. Is he talking about golf? And he didn't even look up there, which is kind of funny. But then when she said, hey, I think he was talking about football, Coach Saban said this.
Well, I'm sure there'll come a day, but is that what you're talking about? Football?
He was talking about football.
Oh, he was? It used to be on my noontime basketball league, I guess. We're no longer partners, when it comes to that. Coach. Now, they have a really good team, really good program, and, they're getting better and better all the time. And there's a lot of challenges in the SEC, and they're certainly one of the up-and-coming programs, and he's always been a great coach. He did a great job for us when he was with us, and he's had a great career as a head coach. So, it's going to be a challenge for us, no doubt, when we have to play him.
I agree with what Blake said online here. The reporter that asked him that, if it were a guy, he would have shredded him. I think he would have shredded him. I mean, you've seen Coach Saban where he kind of loses it on reporters.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there are countless times that I remember him losing it on reporters. He loses it on everybody if you touch him in the right spot.
But this reporter asked him, and apparently he was like, really? And of course, everything's wrapped up. They're doing this tournament now, and then it's kind of their vacation, to be completely honest with you. He'll be in that, is it the Florida town or wherever it is that Dabo Swinney owns a house. They both own a house there, and they have dinner and all that there together. I mean, that's kind of what they'll be doing here shortly before they get back and start worrying about the trials of the upcoming season. But hey, you got to give him some credit. So one other line, he says, oh man, and I've got the other notes in there, but basically it's just, yeah, all right, come at us. That's kind of how I feel about that. But, I want to put that question out there to folks today. Is this the year that the Texas A&M has the best chance? They went through last season. They lose one game. They beat Florida at home, which, was a pretty good win. But of course they lose to Alabama. Is this the year that maybe maybe they have enough to give Alabama a run. What do you think?
You know, everybody talks about how this could be the year that Alabama loses because of all the people they lost. But here's the thing. Alabama, they're a dynasty for a reason.
Right.
Every year, they don't try to rebuild their receiving core. They reload it. They've had great receivers for a long time.
But it's not just an issue of the receiving core. I mean, they always seem to have, 5-star guys ready to take over on the defensive line, 5-star guys ready to take over on the offensive line. I mean, it's almost at a point now where the skill position players, I mean, they matter, but they don't. I mean, Alabama can beat you senseless with just their line.
Yes.
I truly believe that. I mean, you can, to beat Alabama, in my opinion, you have to have superb quarterback play. That's the one way that I think that you have to beat Alabama is for that to happen. And even if you have that, sometimes you can still lose. So it's I just think it's funny because it seems like every year we get this buildup of, okay, this is going to be the year that they do it. And then, okay. Blake Online says, when you make the mind of the kind of money, I think that's what he's going with, Jimbo makes, you must be in the discussion for it every year. Look, money isn't an issue at Texas A&M, man. They've got money on top of money down there. So I don't think it's that. I think that I don't think that he hasn't done anything worthy of that contract yet.
Really? You don't believe that?
Has he won the West?
No, he hasn't won the West, but
Okay.
I do believe the fact that.
So you want to be paid that much money and not win the West? Ed Orgeron's won the West.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very valid point. I'm not trying to just blow you up there, but I'm just saying he got paid that money to win the West.
Okay.
And Blake with a great point. Double what Kiffin and Leach make.
Okay.
That's true too.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
How much is his contract worth?
I got to look up the exact numbers on it, but it's a good bit. I mean, I think he's the second or third highest paid coach in the SEC.
Behind who?
Behind Saban.
Behind Saban and
I think he's second. Hold on,
Okay.
let's go out to the phones here. 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's Bobby and Casey. How are you?
Hey, Bobby, what's up, brother?
Well, the big news is, I know you're talking about the whole fiasco of Jimbo Fisher opened his mouth with Nick Saban.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb.
But then Dan Murphy from ESPN, and I sent you this, put something out very interesting. Georgia Tech is turning around saying that they're not going to charge their players money, where Georgia's going to kill them for what? You brought it up on the show yesterday,
75%. Yeah. They're not going to make them put that much into there. So you'll make more money going to Georgia Tech on the NIL front. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up later.
Yeah. I sent you that earlier.
Yeah.
I had known you had spoke about Georgia and how they're going to kill the Bulldog players.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting how that might change the balance of power. I mean, it would make that Atlanta talent stay right there in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. And it could draw down Georgia. I mean, they'll always still get premium talent.
Right. Well, but I think that, we can talk about Georgia, but let's take a look at Clemson for a minute. Look at all of the players that came from Georgia to Clemson and did some really great stuff. Of course, we could start with Deshaun Watson. He's from Georgia. Trevor Lawrence, the number one pick in the draft, is from Georgia. Now, of course, there's only so many spots that they have at Georgia. I get it, but the idea of, hey, Georgia Tech says you can do this. You could be in a major city like Atlanta where you could have the opportunity to make more off of your image and likeness here, and we're not going to, cut into that money. That's definitely a big recruiting point. It really is.
Yeah. But also keep in mind, too, if Governor McMaster or future governor here in South Carolina passes the NIL, what way that would set Clemson against South Carolina and South Carolina against Clemson. What one decides to do one thing, the other team's going to turn it back in their favor by asking less of the school and giving more to the players. So each state on a state by state, especially with football powerhouses, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, that they want to win. The fan base is that passionate enough. So, it's interesting to see how it is. I believe you had said it, or Phil has said it, that the NCAA should show a little bit of gumption and just pass everything across the board, but they're not like that.
No, they're not.
They're very anti-federalism. They'll let the states hash it out between each other.
Well, you have to be a governing body, which means that when it comes to athletics, this isn't an issue of state sovereignty and everything else. I mean, it's an issue of this is what we're going to do, and that's it. And it's going to be this way across the board. Now, trust me, it's going to be hard. And what I mean for that is that to find a baseline system that's going to work for everybody is going to be tough, because in some spots things are going to be different than others. But you're going to have to do something, because if not, you mentioned with Georgia Tech there, if they can find that loophole where it's like, oh, well, Georgia's going to take, say, 75% of your money and put it away. We're not going to do that. You can have all of it. That's going to be a big deal. I mean, and you can, it's just a dollars and cents type thing, and people will take advantage of it. And that's the big thing here. But the NCAA, if they want to be, it's like, when you play basketball, if you want to play basketball, you need to do the following things. It's the same way with the NCAA. If you want to be the governing body, this is one of those issues you have to rule on, and it has to be a dictatorship. Everybody has to follow it, because if not, then why bother? Why bother at all? So
exactly.
Yeah. But hey, that's good stuff, Bobby. I appreciate it.
I got one more thing about Norlander. I know you're talking college football.
Yeah.
But Phil put it out on his Twitter on Sports Talk. But Norlander put another thing out about the new college basketball rules.
I'm gonna bring those up in my third segment today. Yeah, but we're definitely gonna talk about that.
Exactly. All right, I'll be listening. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir. You have a good weekend too. All right. So yeah, that's a big thing though, and this NIL thing is going to be something that it's going to change a lot of folks. And, there's going to be places that have big boosters and stuff like that are willing to pay for kids' likenesses and things like that. I mean, that's going to happen. You think that Oregon won't have a leg up on this with what Nike does? You think that's not going to happen? You think that the folks down at Ohio State with Oklahoma State with T. Boone Pickens and guys like that? This is what is going to happen, seriously. And it's going to come down to who has the best plan and what the NCAA allows. So strap in, kids. That's the best terminology I can give you there, because some places aren't going to have the capability to give what other places can. And that's just the way that it is. Fireball says they're going to ruin college football with paying college players, the college players thing. Tennessee will have the biggest advantage with Ronald McDonald in their corner. Thank you, Tom. A happy meal for you, sir. Tennessee, gosh, every time there's a McDonald's reference with Tennessee. I'm still waiting on people to get with me next season. I want to go to the Tennessee game. I want to dress up as Grimace. I need a Ronald McDonald. I need a Fry Guy and a Hamburglar. We're all going to shake Happy Meals at the Tennessee folks when they come into the stands. So line up if you want to be one of those. I get to be Grimace, though. I need a big, tall guy for Ronald McDonald and, of course, the Hamburglar.
I'm a big, tall guy.
Well, but can you be the Hamburglar? That's gonna be the issue here. We got to figure that out. Sign up. Send me a message on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We're literally gonna shake Happy Meals at the Tennessee fans as they come in, just because they should go from there. Tom says you must not appreciate legroom, or is it in Willie B? Yeah, good point, sir. Alan says he's loving it. I'm gonna get Alan down here too. Alan could be one of the Fry guys, but that's gonna be. I'm serious. You when that kind of thing happens, it's like I remember when Barry Bonds would go from stadium to stadium and people would throw syringes on the field and stuff like that. That's what's going to happen to Tennessee just about everywhere. That's definitely going to happen. So Anyway, we're taking calls on the NIL bill if you want to get into that. And is this the year that Texas A&M gets over the hump? Because I think if they don't, there's going to be a good set of people that are going to be looking at Jimbo Fisher, and it's going to be. I think it'll be an interesting the rubber chicken circuit where he goes around to all of the Texas A&M clubs that are around the state of Texas or whatever. They all have like a rubber chicken dinner, and he gets up there and, hey, Aggies fans, that kind of thing. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one this year. But if they don't, really put it to this year, and really get ahead, I think there's going to be some of the folks in those 10-gallon hats out there in Texas are not going to be happy with Jimbo Fisher. It's just my opinion. They're paying him a lot of money, and what are they getting out of it? I'm being as real as I can. They can't get a division title out of it? Come on, man. Then that's kind of the way they feel down there. So 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. The baseball team at Tennessee already, yeah, that's right. At Tennessee, they hit a home run like the first week of the season. They came out and they were handing them McDonald's bags. The baseball team from Tennessee was mocking the football team. So I don't feel bad mocking them myself. If their own baseball team is going to mock them, why, I should be able to mock them. Makes sense, right?
It makes total sense.
Makes total sense. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Blake says Florida State still hasn't recovered from Jimbo Fisher. You're right. You're definitely right. When Jameis Winston left, that program went into the toilet, and they haven't really been the same since. They just haven't.
I kind of think that's the reason that Jimbo did leave.
Maybe so. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Blake, you are absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. Y'all think I'm joking. When they come to Columbia in 2 years, yeah, because they'll be at Tennessee this year and then they go to Columbia next year. I'm dead serious. I'm going to that game. I'm going to dress up like Grimace and I'm going to shake Happy Meals at them. And the Tennessee fans, by the way, especially the ones that travel, they are some arrogant people, man. They want to tell you about T. Martin and everything else and how great Tennessee is. Thanks for dropping my phone, buddy.
I didn't mean to drop the phone.
No, we're good. No, we're good. Tennessee baseball could beat Tennessee football in a football game. If it's, there's some tough guys on the baseball team. Yeah. Let's not forget. Let's not forget that Jimbo Fisher married a stripper. Her name was it was Candy. That's absolutely true. I'm not spitting out rumors here. She made him go with her to get her name changed to make it legally Candy, and then she decided to cheat on him with a trainer from Florida. So there's that. He hasn't been the same since that happened. And that's the absolute truth. Tom wants to know who I think is the better Gamecock, Jackie Bradley or Wes Clark. Wes Clark hasn't finished his career yet, but Jackie Bradley wasn't the greatest hitter. But as far as Jackie Bradley was, in my opinion, when he was at South Carolina, he was one of the fastest players from first to third that I'd ever seen in a Gamecock uniform. So there's that. It is a big series for South Carolina and Mississippi State. and it's a big series for the Gamecocks. On the front of the Gamecocks need this series I think they need to win this series if they want to have an opportunity to host. Remember, the host sites are announced on Monday. Gamecocks got swept last weekend at Ole Miss. If they can win some games in this series against Mississippi State, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. But, it's also one of those things that if you don't get picked as a regional host, is this something that, could hold over on the Gamecocks? What I mean by that, they play that game. They play the series with Mississippi State. They go on the road to Clemson and play a one game up there as a makeup from earlier this season when they had the rain out. If you stumble in this series with Mississippi State, you don't get a regional. You go up to Clemson. Clemson's playing pretty good baseball right now, won 7 straight games. If you drop that game to Clemson, all of a sudden, what looked like it was going to be a great season, you went from, whoa, this is the great, we've done this, and this, to now we're not hosting a regional, and now we just lost to Clemson, and Clemson is the hottest baseball team in the state right now. It's amazing how your baseball season in college can change so quickly. If you remember the series with Arkansas, Gamecocks lost to 2 out of 3 in that series, but they were in the whole thing, man. It wasn't like Arkansas was completely out of the picture there. So their thing in that series, and they had the opportunity there to do some damage, but they didn't quite make it, to be completely honest with you. So they dropped that series. They dropped the series to Mississippi last week, and they're playing Mississippi State this weekend, another tough SEC series. A lot of it's got to do with the competition. I'll give you that. But this series is big for South Carolina. It really is. If they take 2 out of 3, they might sneak their way into being a host. And then you wear that badge, hey, we know we're in the tournament. I mean, they're going to be in the tournament anyway, but they know they're going to host. That makes your the level of excitement with your team just better. I mean, just a lot better. But this series with Mississippi State is a big, big deal this weekend. 803-978-1832. Tom had a great question. He goes, who do you think is the better Gamecock, Jackie Bradley Jr. or Wes Clark? I don't think it's fair to put that to put that with Wes Clark yet, because his career hasn't ended. Wes Clark reminds me sometimes of, and I don't like, I guess I can put it this way. He reminds me of like Paul Bunyan with the big blue ox and all that. He goes up to the plate and he can hit the ball a long way. He can change the course of a game in a matter of, one swing of the bat. He really can. Now, on the other hand, with Jackie Bradley Jr. could wreak havoc on the base paths. And that's a part of the game that's not quite, people don't think about people stealing bases anymore. But if you have somebody that can do it like Jackie Bradley Jr. could when he was in college, and he could still do it now. And defensively, Jackie Bradley Jr. was outstanding. So, and I mentioned this during the break too, going from first to third, he's probably, and I'm sure Teddy Hefner, who's watched a lot more Gamecock baseball than I have, may disagree with me on this. But as far as Gamecock, seeing a Gamecock running the bases, he's probably the fastest I've seen going from, first to third. I mean, just absolutely lightning on the base pass was Jackie Bradley Jr. So for me, I mean, it's not fair to put Wes Clark into that yet because his career isn't over. Maybe we can revisit that after the season. But for me, it's Jackie Bradley Jr. It really is. And man, he was so good. But he's right up there for me with Michael Roth. Michael Roth going out there. I mean, it was just, he didn't quite have enough to be the guy that could go in and be like this big starter in the major leagues. But as far as a college pitcher, I'll take Michael Roth today and all day Sunday. I mean, he was just outstanding with what he could do. So, yeah, if you want to call in about that, we'll take those calls as well at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. I remember, some Clemson players that, Khalil Green, you remember him, and who was the other one? Oh, Seth Beer. I'm thinking Seth. Yeah, Seth Beer was, when he came up, he could rope a ball, and it was just he could change the game with one swing of the bat as well. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Blake says maybe the governor could help by announcing full capacity if they get a regional. I think behind the scenes, they probably have had some conversations with the governor and everything else. And they probably know, hey, this is what's going to happen here if boom, 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 etc. So, yeah, I think that may be in the mix. And if you're bidding on a regional, you kind of want to be able to have it full. We were talking about the coach from Louisville who could have 800 people in the stands. I wouldn't even bid. Would not. Why bid and have 800 people? Especially considering the fact that I have to give a portion of those tickets to the away team. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us this afternoon here on the Rundown. I've got a cool story here about the 10 games that will shape the 2021 college football playoff race. Some of these are very interesting, and some of them are very early in the season. So we'll talk about that. And what team in college football do you think would rank the highest as far as career NFL earnings among active players? I found this story earlier, and everybody talks about, like someone was telling me yesterday, LSU is wide receiver year. They've had 12 guys drafted from there since since 2010 or whatever it is. So, and we've done our DBU series and which university right now is QBU. You can find all those in the archives on the podcast. But which team right now do you think is, if we're going to rank them by how much their players are currently earning in the NFL right now? Kind of shocking when you really stop and look at it. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Thanks for checking us out on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. If I remember correctly, man, I don't remember when the receivers that Tommy Bowden had. I don't know, buddy. That's a good question. Tommy Bowden receivers. Do you remember Tommy Bowden receivers there, Mr. Savage College Football?
Tommy Bowden?
Yes. You know Tommy Bowden? He's too young. He's not going to know who Tommy Bowden is. Your dad would know.
I know who Bobby Bowden is.
Yeah, well, everybody knows who Bobby Bowden is.
But I do not remember Tommy Bowden.
As tall as you are, Bobby Bowden would be like, what you doing out there? We'll get you on the offensive line there, young man. I can hear him saying that to you right now. He'd be like looking at me like, what are you doing? You want to be the
long snapper?
You want to go guard the end of the bench, tackle anybody that comes near? That's what you do. I'm not going to put you out on the field.
That's what I'll do?
No, that's what he would say to me.
Oh.
He'd try to get you on the offensive line.
I played offensive line in middle school.
Yeah.
Maybe those talents will come back.
Was that tough with your dad when you were on the middle school team? Did he try to coach you up? Because your dad played on the offensive line, didn't he?
It was very fun when I would come off of the field after a drive, and my dad would call me over to the fence and tell me what I did wrong.
Well, your dad played on the offensive line, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
No, he coached offensive line.
I thought didn't he play? Your dad played.
He played defensive line, I thought.
Oh. We got to ask him about that the next time we talk to your dad. So.
All right, sounds good.
Jimmy says I could be the water boy. That's cute, Jimmy.
I like Jimmy. Now. He sounds like he has a lot of humor.
Jimmy's funny. Jimmy's got jokes.
Jimmy, you now have my support.
Yeah,
Savage College Football supports you.
that's funny. All right, so I've got these games that are going to impact the upcoming college football playoff. Kind of cool. So we'll start with these, and when we come back, some of these I'm like, yeah, all right. Tommy Bowden couldn't win the big game, man, and he would. It seemed like every year he'd win the big game, but then lose games he wasn't supposed to. They'd beat Florida State, but then lose to Wake Forest. That's what would happen. Seriously.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now-
He'd beat Wake Forest, or he'd beat, X team, but then lose to a team that was completely out of it.
Now, where did Tommy Bowden coach at again?
My sport of choice in school was basketball. I didn't get the height that young Mr. Savage college football has. I can still shoot the jump shot, though. All right, here we go. Coming back. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeartRadio app. This is a very cool thing that I found that talks about the 10 games that'll shape the 2021 college football playoff race. And we'll roll through some of these. Some of these are really interesting, and we'll get your opinion over there too, sir. October the 30th on Halloween, North Carolina will play at Notre Dame. Yeah, that's kind of neat because remember, Notre Dame's not in the ACC this year. So this is probably the biggest ACC game they'll play because they're not playing Clemson this year. Mac Brown would love to have the marker of, hey, I'm going into North Carolina. I'm trying to show people that North Carolina has arrived. And yeah, this could be that game that could vault them into all right, he's not just screwing around up there trying to collect a retirement check. Mac Brown is serious. So I think that's a very interesting game. You agree?
I definitely do agree. It'll be interesting to see how North Carolina is this year.
Yep. All right. Then we got Alabama at Texas A&M, October the 9th. We were talking about Jimbo Swisher with his big 10-gallon hat and his belt buckle. This is your chance, sir.
Jimbo Swisher.
I said Fisher? Did I say Swisher?
I thought I heard.
I thought I said,
Swisher.
if I said Swisher, I'm sorry. Jimbo Fisher. Yeah, I mean, this is their chance. Texas A&M got beat up by Alabama last year. They finished 9-1, and they were the Orange Bowl champions. So what? That's how a lot of people feel out in the land of Texas A&M. Got to beat Alabama. That's just the way that it is. They have Southern Cal and Notre Dame here. I don't think that game's going to matter simply because I don't think either one of those teams are going to be in the playoff hunt, to be honest with you. The other interesting game is week 3 of the season. Alabama makes the trip to Florida, and that's going to be interesting on this front. I think if you're going to get Nick Saban's team, you better get them early. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
And if Florida can do that with, and jump out on them early, I think that Florida, I think Alabama's going to win by probably 10 points, but Florida has that chance because they're playing them so early in the season.
And it's also a home game for the Gators.
Yeah, and you got to go to the swamp. Notre Dame and Wisconsin in Chicago on September the 25th. Okay. Oregon at Ohio State, September the 11th, week 2 of the season. This is the game where they'll probably have game day on site. Everybody will be all jacked up. But in the end, it'll be no Justin Fields, none of that. Justin Herbert's not going to be there. I mean, I know he's in the NFL now. Either way, this game means a lot to Oregon because this could be the Pac-12 is not just going to sit back in November and while all the SEC folks are talking about, well, we should have 3 SEC teams because that's what they'll do. The Pac-12 is going to want a seat at the table. So, yeah, that's a big game there for the Pac-12 and Oregon as they travel to Ohio State on September the 11th. Iowa State at Oklahoma. Can Iowa State get over the hump? They're almost like Texas A&M of the Big 12. They're a good football team, but they need to beat Oklahoma and get into winning the Big 12. So that matchup is on November the 20th. So, yeah, big game there in the land of the Big 12. Cincinnati at Notre Dame on October the 2nd. That game could be interesting for the group of 5 folks. And if Cincinnati can win that game, they may cement themselves into one of the New Year's Six Bowls with that win. Alabama and Miami in Atlanta on September the 4th. Now, I don't know why this one's ranked so high in the piece that I have here. We don't know how De'Aaron King's knee is going to be. We have no clue. I mean, I think that's a fair. You tear your ACL. I think that's a fair thing to say. You don't know how well he's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
First live game action since he tore it. So Alabama, of course, it is early in the season, but I think Alabama is going to. I think they're going to put a hurting on Miami in Atlanta. I mean, it's a neutral site game. I think Alabama will probably be favored by 14 to 17 points, and they'll probably cover that. But still, it's an interesting matchup with obviously the cream of the crop there with Alabama and a team trying to break their way through in the ACC with Miami. What do you think about that game?
The only thing that I can say that could maybe give Miami fans some hope is that the game is early and it is
Right.
not at Alabama.
Well,
Besides that,
well, let's just be honest. Miami is not UAB. Miami is not Central Arkansas. Miami is not the Citadel or Charleston Southern. So they're not going to be invited to Alabama because Alabama doesn't want to return the favor and do a home and home with them. It's because Alabama, in reality, is like Florida. They want to schedule the easiest non-conference schedule they can with neutral site games, so it looks like they're playing something that's hard. But as far as playing a home and home, they're cowards. And that's something that goes across the SEC with a lot of teams. Look, we can give a lot of crap to certain teams, okay? But Auburn, with the way that they schedule, and Texas A&M, with the way that they schedule, where they'll do home and homes with other
Georgia
teams.
will too.
Let's slow down on Georgia. That's not exactly true. Out to the phones we go, 803-978-1832. Well, welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, this is Ballard Sports Media. I'm a YouTuber. I'm not sure if you've
Yeah,
seen me
I
on
got
here.
you now. What you got for the show?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys, with Will Muschamp out,
Mm-hmm.
now you guys got the new head coach. What's his name?
Shane Beamer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Are you guys full-on confident that this is the guy to turn South Carolina around?
Well, I don't think anybody's full-on confident in anything. He hasn't coached a game yet. So, I mean, to say that's just not really fair. But I think that he's doing the things that everything that looks good on paper, everything that looks good on the optics, the social media things have changed for South Carolina. So the perception of the program has changed, where it's not like, oh my goodness, we've got to go play for this dullard and Will Muschamp, which is the way that people thought, to this guy. He seems like he's young, and they had video of him throwing a football with his son out on the field at Williams-Brice. People see that, and you know who else sees that? Mamas see that. The mamas that Shane Beamer is going to be going into their living room and saying, hey, I want your son to come here. And they're going to think, you know what? This guy cares enough about his kid. He's out there throwing a football with him on the field, and he looks like he's a father and he cares. Maybe he'll take care of my son. Little things like that. It's one thing on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And go and follow Shane Beamer on Twitter, by the way, because everything is positive. It's just positive on top of positive, and it doesn't look like it's canned. It looks like, hey, he's getting in a tweet before he goes to dinner with his wife and everything else, but it's good stuff. And, I don't know how he's going to do on the field. He may go out there and be a guy that can't manage a game. I don't know. But I do know that the perception of him is solid right now. And it just there's a little bit of hope down there on Bluff Road at Williams-Brice.
Oh, I'm sure there is, man. I mean, look, the best thing Gamecock fans can say right now is thank God Muschamp is out of there. Like, just be real.
Yeah.
I mean, but we don't know. I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm trying to be a sportscaster. So, I mean, I try to keep up with all the teams.
I think that I think that you're right about that. And I mean, and he's gone, and Gamecock fans don't want to hear about that anymore, to be honest with you. They've got their new guy, and then they'll go from there.
Well, I mean, only time will tell, and I mean, I guess just win a couple games this year, right?
Well, I think they're going to try to win more than a couple. Hey, man, I got to go to a break, but I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to win more than a couple. I think that it's not out of the realm of insanity to say that South Carolina can win 5 games. It's not. It's really not. I mean, if you're driving around and thinking, hey, that can't happen, I can give you reasons that it can. And my reasoning is pretty good. Pretty good. So we shall see. You know, I don't want to say that it's going to be like Arkansas was last year, where people thought that Arkansas couldn't win one game, including me. I didn't think Arkansas would win one game in that conference schedule. Didn't think it would happen. Okay? But what did Arkansas do? They went out and they were competitive. They won, 3 or 4 games? In a 10-game schedule, that's not bad. It's not bad at all. South Carolina's looking for the same type of thing. And with some of the stuff that they've got, this South Carolina team has more talent on it than the Arkansas team had last year. I'll take that all day. I mean, they returned the SEC's leading rusher. That's kind of important. They've got defensive linemen and linebackers that were wanted by big-time Power 5 schools. And I'm talking like, Jordan Burch could be playing at LSU or Alabama right now if he wanted to. And that's true. Pickens could be playing for Clemson, LSU, Alabama. They all wanted him. So there's talent there. Okay. Can they all weave it together? We don't know. That's the best part about college football is we don't know. We shall absolutely see, though. It's the best soap opera in the world, man. Quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's show. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. So look for Beamer to make a better turnaround than Pittman. No, I'm just saying that they have the capability to have that kind of season. That's what I'm saying. What you got?
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, say whatever you want.
Okay.
You have a microphone. It's right there in front of your face.
Okay. I just don't want to interrupt.
You're not interrupting me.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you said that was not exactly true, that Georgia does home and home.
It's completely true. They don't schedule anyone with a home and home. We've looked at this before.
They have one with Ohio State.
That is in the future. As of right now, they have.
Oh, I didn't think you were.
Yes,
I didn't think you were talking about.
You
the
got to
future.
listen to me, bud. As of right now, they don't do that. They don't do that.
Okay.
They have the one with Notre Dame, and that's it. That's it. In the past, they don't schedule home and homes
They
with
had a
people.
Clemson one.
Yeah, that was years ago, years and years ago. In the past 10 years, they've scheduled one home and home that is somewhat viable, and that was the Notre Dame game.
No, the
That's
Clemson
it.
one was in the last 10 years.
I would have to look. I don't remember when it was, to be honest with
It
you.
was in 2013, 2014.
Either way, they normally don't. Their non-conference schedule is, hey, let's welcome in Murray State. Yay!
Don't disrespect Murray State.
I'm not.
My dad coached there.
I almost went to Murray State.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I lived in Murray, Kentucky. So there's
really?
that. Yeah. So, no, it's not. The entire SEC does it. There's a couple of teams that will schedule home and homes with other teams, and they're having to do it now because once they redo the college football playoff, they're not going to be able to sit on, oh, well, we played an SEC schedule and, we lost one game. Well, what was your SEC schedule? Well, we had Mizzou and Vanderbilt and Kentucky and South Carolina. And, who did you lose to? We lost to Alabama. Okay, who was your other team you played in the West? Oh, we played Arkansas. How many games did Arkansas win this year? 2. That's what they do. A lot of East teams do that. And that's kind of the vibe that you'll get from that. And it's just crap. Not everybody plays Alabama every year.
Unfortunately.
Beamer has never been a coach. That's why I say he will fail. You have to have experience. Pittman didn't have experience, and he did okay. Eli Drinkowitz had no SEC experience. He did okay, Fireball. experience isn't always everything. Dabo Swinney had no head coaching experience. He did all right. Thank you, Jordan. All right, here we go. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, we've got, we were talking about these 10 games that would affect the college football playoff. Of course, you've got the D'Eriq King game with Miami and Alabama. Can D'Eriq King be the guy that's the dynamic quarterback that knocks off Nick Saban the first game of the season? I'm saying not, but he's the kind of player that can put up that crazy kind of game. And quarterbacks that run around give Nick Saban's defense problems. Now, can he make plays with his feet enough to do that with that knee? I don't know. And of course, number one is the Clemson, Georgia game. The first, up there at September the 4th. I think it's a 3:30 kickoff, if I remember correctly. I can't remember. I don't know if they've assigned the kickoff time for it yet. But Clemson and Georgia up there in Charlotte at the neutral site game. Looks like we're going to have full stands for that. That's going to be electric. Absolutely electric. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting too. But, they missed a couple of games in this that could end up throwing some of the college football playoff off a little bit. The Georgia-Florida game, that game in the middle of the season there could cause some issues. You also have to think about the LSU-Alabama game. Does LSU have the talent to prove that they're not the one-hit wonder under Ed Orgeron? Are they going to be the team that's like, hey, they're going to finish 8-3, or are they going to go back to the land of Burrow where they're throwing the ball all over the field and doing all kinds of great stuff? They've got talent down there. You can look at their the recruiting rankings and show that, hey, their roster's loaded up with stuff. Ed Orgeron actually interviewed the coaches that he has on the staff now. That's a way to go in the positive direction. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, I think that LSU-Alabama game is going to be a big game. And then you've got, of course, the Iron Bowl at the end of the season. But I don't know how great Auburn's going to be. They could be in the land of Spoil City here, though. They could be sitting at 7-4 and would love to upset some Alabama to ruin the Tide's chances of either making the playoffs or quite possibly mess up their seeding a little bit. 803-978-1832. A couple of things online. Someone was talking about they weren't sure about Beamer succeeding because he doesn't have experience. And Jordan talked about Dabo Swinney, no experience, but he was a coordinator. It's not an apples to apple comparison, but it's still worth noting. He says Dabo succeeded because he was able to establish his culture and get buy-in from his staff, the players, the administration, and the university as a whole. I think that the game in Dabo's first year, winning that South Carolina game, that rainy day in Death Valley, where he went toe-to-toe, as my allergies are killing me, with Steve Spurrier up there, and won that game, that was kind of the big deal, in my opinion. So Dabo Swinney wins that game, and it wasn't Holtz, was it? I think it was Holtz or Spurrier. I can't remember. Either way, the first matchup was South Carolina, where Clemson won. I think that got Dabo Swinney his job. And then the next season, they weren't that good. They ended up losing to, they ended up going, 6-7, losing to South Florida in some bowl in Charlotte. Then after that, it's been lights out. 9-10 win seasons for Dabo Swinney, up and down, 2 national titles, 6 straight ACC titles. So, yeah, you don't have to have experience for it to work all the time. I'm not necessarily buying into all of that. What do you think there, bud?
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I don't really have much to add on to that because you kind of explained everything.
Right. Yeah. It's just, I think people get hung up on that. And I think that's why we have a whole set of coaches that are nothing but retreads. hey, you were great here, but now you may have failed here. We're going to give you another opportunity here. That's why you keep getting the same names over and over and over again. If I'm hiring somebody, I'm going to go with the adage of we're going to go big or go home, meaning, I'd much rather have the next Lincoln Riley over the fourth version of Steve Spurrier. Just saying, because Lincoln Riley will probably never leave Oklahoma. And if he does, he's going to the NFL. It's not going to be for another college job. He's going to look at it as you gave him this opportunity to be absolutely awesome in his first college coaching job, and he's going to be thankful for that. I think that's more the way to go. And it's no I use Coach Spurrier there because they already made their bones somewhere else. So, yeah. All right. So this weekend, man, don't forget South Carolina, Mississippi State, big baseball matchup. Clemson, Georgia Tech, another matchup that's big for the Tigers because they've been playing some pretty good baseball right now, possibly getting themselves set up where they can be in the tournament. But this weekend's big for South Carolina on the front of hosting a regional. Also, Darlington this weekend. We didn't really get into that much today, but it's nice that we have an actual South Carolina's cool in that we have a PGA event here every year, and you've got Darlington that's here once a year too. So I'll be watching some of the Darlington race on on Sunday if I'm not running around with my wife doing stuff with her. All right, so up next week, Monday, we'll have the 16 teams that will be hosting regionals. So we'll talk about that on Monday and a lot more. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. My buddy Lawton Swan is up next. He is Lawton Swan, the czar of Clemson Sports Talk.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
You can follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. Podcast of the show is up at 5:00. Be sure to check that out. And I appreciate you guys joining us throughout the week here on The Rundown. Blog page is up at foxsportsradio1400.com. I post stuff there throughout the weekend. All right, Mr. Savage, college football, thanks for coming in, man. We'll see you next Friday.
Thank you so much.
And with that, the show's a wrap. All right, guys, appreciate y'all, man. We'll see you later on.